the whole meeting, Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. I just want to welcome each and every one of you here. We're going to all join together. We're going to have a perfect meeting, and we're going to have a quick meeting. How about that? But we're going to get the information that we need. All right. We will stand for pledge, and after pledge is invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Holy God, we give thanks for this opportunity to gather as free citizens and to exercise yet again our right to self-government through these elected officials. Help us appreciate and respect the gifts and insights of each of these board members, as well as those who present information and opinions to this board as we fulfill our responsibilities. We solemnly ask for wisdom and sound judgment as we make decisions for the betterment of all of our students, employees, and the community we serve. With grateful hearts we pray. Amen.
I would like to say that I was just informed of a shooting that happened on Darlington campus. We just have to be mindful. We just have to keep each other in prayer because it's so many things that are happening. And when they're happening, it's happening so close to home. And we just have to keep each other in prayer that one day, the guns will be down, the violence will be down, and we can just be joyful together. It's just heart-wrenching when I hear things like this, and not only that it was a shooting, but there was a life loss. So, I would like to entertain a motion, please, to approve the agenda.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the agenda that's printed for tonight's meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. If there's no question, all in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you. We don't have any public input. We don't have any old businesses. We don't have new businesses. So we're going to go to superintendent report. So there it is.
Good afternoon, board members. Just want to make sure that everyone can hear me.
Yes.
Great. First, I just want to thank our IT department, specifically Mr. Zorn and Mr. BJ Humphreys for setting up the board meeting virtually to allow me and Mrs. Hedden to join you as we are currently representing our district at the National Summer Learning Summit. So thank you to the IT department for a wonderful job. My report will start with partnerships with the Technical College of the Lowcountry, and I'm assuming that you all can see the presentation. At each of our meetings, I highlight a community partner that is assisting the district in meeting its goals of greater student outcomes. And the Technical College of the Lowcountry is one of our partners, and I highlighted them last month. And we will recognize them at our regular board meeting on October 19th, next week. And as I stated previously, TCL is working in tandem with our adult education program to provide credit and non-credit courses to students and adult learners. We have a workforce coordinator who is in place, and he is housed in the adult education building, assisting with recruitment and assisting students as they navigate through their online coursework. So I want to welcome Mr. Philip Taylor. We are very excited about the partnership. He is the coordinator. And as I said before, we will have representatives from TCL at next week's board meeting, and they will be recognized. Next in my report, just wanted to talk a little bit about another partnership that we have. And we already have a partnership with the Colleton County Sheriff's Department, but I met with with Sheriff Buddy Hill and also Lieutenant Ricky Valentine about how we can strengthen and enhance our existing partnership. And we had a very, very great meeting. We discussed implementing student, staff, and parent trainings in order to increase awareness of drug resistance and gang awareness, just to name a few. And also our Office of Student Services and the Office of Safety and Security are working very, very closely with our Sheriff's Department to ensure that these initiatives are successful. So I just wanted to bring that partnership to your attention and let you know that we're working to strengthen it and to do more things to educate not only our students, but our entire community. The next slide in my report is a special education overview. And at this time, I'm going to ask that Dr. Baddock, along with Dr. Durden, come forward, and they're going to present a special education overview for you tonight. And the topics that they will cover will include special education programming, Section 504. They will talk about support services. They will talk about the populations that we serve. They will give you an overview of our staffing. They will talk about our program focus for this year and then our future goals. I will continue and conclude my report at the conclusion of Dr. Baddock and Dr. Durden's presentation. So at this time, Dr. Baddock, Dr. Durden, please come forward with your presentation.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. I don't know if she can hear us. Good evening. I'm waiting to see if there's a separate PowerPoint, so I'm just waiting for it to come up.
Do we have a copy of that PowerPoint?
Very last one in our folder.
The last packet?
I actually don't know if you do. I'll send it to you guys.
We have it.
Oh, you do? Yeah. Okay. Is it updated? No, I'm sorry, I was talking to. Let me see.
This one was emailed to us last week.
This is for the whole Office of Exceptional Learning.
Okay.
This one's just special ed.
Okay.
So I'll send it to you guys.
Okay, great.
It's 15 slides.
Okay.
Okay, so again, good evening. Thank you for having us. It's my pleasure. For those of you who have not met Dr. Durden, I think you've all met him, had the opportunity. Yeah. He's been a wonderful addition to the Colleton County team, so I'm thrilled that he's here. And he's not allowed to leave. I told him he has a 5-year commitment. That's my new thing, guys. Everybody's got a 5-year commitment. So the Colleton County School District Office of Exceptional Learning meets the needs of students ages 3 to 21 who are eligible for special education and related services according to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, otherwise known as IDEA. IDEA serves as the governing tool that we use as the foundation for all regulation and mandates in special education. All of the states use IDEA as the foundation for state laws governing special ed. Colleton County offers, you can go to the next slide. Colleton County offers a full continuum of services ranging from the least restrictive to the most restrictive environment, depending on the specific needs of each student. The department also supports schools in ensuring that students with disabilities have appropriate access to grade level standards and provide specialized instruction as determined necessary by each student's individualized education program. In collaboration with students, school teams, and families, and the community as well, the Department of Special Programs assists students with disabilities in increasing academic performance and enhancing post-secondary outcomes. The department is composed of more than 140 teachers, therapists, specialists who are trained to provide specially designed instruction and services that are designed to meet the individual needs of students with disabilities. you can go to the next slide. Colleton County currently services 759 students with disabilities in grades pre-K through 12 and beyond, which includes our adult learners. That is about 16% of our overall student population. And the slide after that is a comparison of other states, which I provided last year, and we really haven't moved at all in terms of where we are. Colleton County, as I just told you, is about 16, so we're a little high. So we are working on some things which Dr. Durden will highlight in his slides in a few minutes. But if you just look at the surrounding states, we're a little high. This slide is an important slide in the sense that, and again, I'll send this to you guys so you could look at it in greater detail at your leisure. The column on the left represents the schools and or the programs where we house students. And then the top is the disability category for which the student has been determined eligible. And I recognize that that grand total at the bottom, 1,036, is well above the number that I quoted you earlier, which was just under 800, 769, I want to say it was. No, I forgot. I just read it. 759? 759. That's because there are students who have a primary and a secondary area of eligibility. So some students may qualify. So if you go across the top, it's autism spectrum disorder, deaf and hard of hearing, developmental delay, emotional disability, intellectual disability, mild, moderate, severe, multiple disabilities, orthopedic impairment, otherwise health impaired, speech and language disabled, specific learning disability, speech and language, and then vision. So all of those are the disability categories, and then you can see how many students and where they fall. So when you guys have time, you can look at that. You can move to the next slide. Oh, okay, Dr. Durden.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So our program goals. Program goals, we are enhancing our program through increased collaboration between our program and the schools. We have restructured our facilitators, so now we have a facilitator for early childhood, BabyNet, private school, homebound, and homeschooling. We also have a facilitator for elementary, and then we have one for secondary for both middle and high school. We have provided numerous PD sessions for staff at the schools this year. We just recently finished one, which I'll talk about in a second. And we just finished up a mindset training to enable us to have trainers for each of the schools in our district so they can train their staff at their building. Our next goal is to reduce the number of students referred for special ed and evaluation, special ed evaluation. Reduce disproportionality of high numbers of students with IEP. So we're trying to eliminate students that have that are of a different race category or a certain area of high needs, trying to reduce that category down. Work collaboratively with the MTSS Services Department and increase our Medicaid billing. So our vendor, we have PCG as our vendor that monitors, and we meet with them on a regular basis to have discussions about where we at. So we do what we call audits to see how much money's coming in and how much money's coming out that's being utilized. And we have increased our services along with social work services for mental health support this year. Okay. What's that? Oh. Okay, next one. Currently, we have 41 students that have been referred for an evaluation to determine eligibility for special ed so far this year, approximately 1% of our student population. 9 students have been evaluated and determined eligible so far this year, and 4 have been evaluated and determined ineligible. The remaining students are either in the pipeline, awaiting testing, or permission has not been secured just of yet. Next slide, please. Our related services, which is our primary related services, OT, SLP, those are our 2 large ones, and we have PT. Those are 3 large services that we provide in special education. And currently we have 240 individual students who receive those services, Many students receive multiple related services. The total services provided is 769. These services may be submitted for Medicaid reimbursement, depending on if the family signs off or if they're eligible or not. And then the related services areas, we have speech, language, physical therapy, occupational therapy, behavior, counseling, hearing, vision, orientation and mobility, and transportation, which I will talk about shortly, and then nursing. This is our team, myself, coordinator Dr. Learson, lead psych, Dr. Aubrey Isaacson, elementary facilitators I mentioned earlier, Dr. Cooler, secondary facilitator, Ms. Robbie, early intervention facilitator, Mr. Capers, our Medicaid specialist, Ms. Moultrie, our administrative assistant, Ms. Burnett. This is just a chart that shows our flow chart, so any individual to know who's under what area. Myself, Dr. Learson, Dr. Isaacson head each of the key areas, and we meet with our different subgroups as needed. We meet as a whole group once a week with myself and the facilitators and my two leadership members. Transportation. There are currently 92 students who receive specialized transportation. Those students also are eligible for Medicaid. We also can provide Medicaid from those students if they're eligible and if they're signed off on. And I keep emphasizing signed off, parents must give us permission to authorize to receive Medicaid. But those 92 students can be students that can be eligible for Medicaid assistance, that we can receive Medicaid assistance from, excuse me. Okay, this is the area I want to talk about, our professional development. So we provided Teach Town training to all our staff that are supporting students in the buildings. We conducted EL Reading Horizons training, Discovery. We did math, touch math this year. And as I stated earlier, we did Mindset. And we've done this at both the pre-K, elementary, the middle, and the high school. At the middle and high school, we also conducted Read 180 training and Math 180 training. And at the high school, we've done Achieve 3000 training. So these are the trainings we've conducted from August up until as of recently, as of this morning. Staffing update. Our current vacancies, Blackstreet has what we call a multi-category teacher. Right now, we have a teacher that's projected to come in that position that's currently working, finishing up his licensure, and we're looking at having him on board in November. We currently have a SLP teacher and OT teacher that we just contracted out for, so that there'll be a contract teacher. They're not part of virtual, they're in person. And we just hired them. They're coming from us from New Hampshire. And so we can get them hired on, and I think their license will be pending, and we should get them on board by the 1st of November. Hendersonville, we have a multi-category teacher position. The same situation where we're trying to ensure that that person's license is on board, and right now I believe it's pending, so we should get them on board by the 1st of November as well. And then at the high school, we have a transition specialist teacher, and so far we haven't had any luck. We do have a person in the contract realm that we are trying to contract, but right at this moment we have not secured that contract at this moment. Virtual teachers. Blackstreet, we have one virtual teacher and multi-category combo teacher. Bell, we have one resource teacher that's virtual. Cottageville, we have two teachers, one multi-category and one that's a resource teacher. Hendersonville, we have one multi-category and two resource teachers, and that one resource teacher is one of the ones that's waiting for a certification. Northside, we have 2 multi-category teachers. At the middle school, we have 4 virtual teachers. 2 are resource. 1 is in a behavior classroom, and 1 is the SLP. And then at the high school, we have 1 resource teacher. This virtual.
Those are all supported by paraprofessionals.
Yes, a great question. One of the caveats in having a virtual teacher, we have to have an adult in there, and that's one of our special ed assistants. So needless to say, that's additional staffing that we have to provide, so that's another staff. So yes, we have the teacher for that class, but we also have to have another adult in the classroom.
Dr. Durden, some of those classes probably have more than one assistant.
Yes, depending, the multi-category teachers and the low incident teacher class at Forest Hills, yes, those students have needs that require additional supports, so they have to have more educational assistance in those classrooms.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, did I talk about this? Yep, I talked about that already. Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You have questions?
I do. I didn't know if that was the end of the whole presentation or just Dr. Durden's part. I'm sorry.
No, that was the end of the, Dr. Durden, he started with the program goals, so his one slide was out of order, so
I got
that
you.
was the end. So I could tell that you have a question.
I just have a quick
weren't
one.
getting off
I
that
think
easy.
it was on the first slide. I think it said that we service from 3-year-old to 21-year-old.
Correct.
So just for my clarification, if we have a self-contained special ed student, we keep them in our school district until they're 21?
So they have the right to be here until they're 21.
Okay.
They're not required to be here till they're 21. Oftentimes, students are eligible to graduate with their cohort, with their
Right.
peer group, and then they'll bank the diploma or hang on to it, and then they'll continue to receive services. And a lot of times, that's an opportunity for us to also get them out into the communities and acquire some whether it be a
skills.
sheltered, all kinds of different skills, but they're either in the district or out in terms of, depending on their level of employability.
Okay, so that decision as far as them being eligible to be with us through 21 is up to the parents?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah,
All right.
when students are of transition age, you begin to build that transition plan for them, and that transition plan allows up to the age of 21.
Got you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Dr. Baddock, could you please explain Medicaid billing and how that works? For instance, there were a couple times it was mentioned if authorized for the,
Okay, sure.
the billing. And so if we are unable to bill for those services, how do we provide them and what funding do we use for that?
Okay, so great question. All of the services mentioned by Dr. Durden, all of the related services, everything that was listed, PT, OT, speech, nursing, anything that's written into the IEP as a required service for that student that's a supplementary or related service, including transportation, is Medicaid billable. All of them are. However, we cannot bill without the consent of the parent. And sometimes parents don't want to offer consent. Never made sense to me because it doesn't take away from them. So it comes down, for me, it's always come down to making sure parents understand if we're allowed to bill, that's money that comes back into the district. Last year we had an issue. A lot of parents didn't want to sign, so I wrote up a letter and I sent it out to parents myself, and we got a whole bunch of them back signed. So at every IEP meeting, we have annual IEP meetings. At that IEP meeting, the parent, because it has to be renewed every year. So at that annual IEP meeting, the parent is asked to sign a consent form allowing us to bill Medicaid. And so we have to be diligent, one, in making sure we present that, and two, making sure parents understand what we're asking of them. It's not taking anything away from their insurance or out of their pocket. It's just allowing us to bill for services that are billable. If they don't allow, we still have to provide the services. And, under the IDEA, money can never be a factor for services. So we then have to revert to either, close your ears, Mrs. Barrett. We either have to revert to our IDEA money, which we don't get a whole lot of that, the federal money for special education, or whatever other Medicaid billing we happen to receive that we have, which is not a lot of money either, or general fund. So regardless, we have to pay for those services.
And so just to understand, so if a parent or the student is not eligible or doesn't currently have Medicaid benefits, in other words, they're privately insured, but that student still, because of the services they're receiving, can still be Medicaid eligible under the services provided within our district.
So the services are Medicaid eligible because they're not duplicated services. So I'll give you an example. If a student is receiving speech and language services at home through private insurance, that's billable under their private insurance. If it's provided through the school district, that's Medicaid. So it is billable. It's not a duplication. Where we have to be cautious is mental health services, which is a new area where we're going to start billing through the district. Those services, because sometimes students receive mental health services and they're not in the IEP, but they're receiving them because they're beneficial to the student. In those instances, we couldn't bill. So services for which we're allowed to bill have to be written into the IEP. And if they are, then we're responsible to provide, and then they are appropriate for Medicaid billing. So whether or not the student has Medicaid as a primary insurance, it doesn't matter. We can bill as long as they sign up on that form that allows us to bill. They can still have private insurance.
Thank you. I hope that helps those that might have concerns better understand what our services provide and why we need that authorization.
Okay, yeah, it's very important. It's all money back into programming for the students.
Can I ask one more?
Of course.
I know with IEPs and special ed, there are so many legalities in it, right? I'm sure we do. Do we have a way that we're tracking what kids are getting the services that they're supposed to and what kids are being left off and not receiving the services that they're supposed to be getting?
We do.
Okay.
The special education department, exceptional learning, they track all of the related services. And for students, so let's just say we're short a speech and language therapist or pathologist, that student is then tracked, and then we owe what's called compensatory services, and then we tag those on. So instead of 30 minutes a week, when in fact we retain someone to provide those services, we'll bump it up to 45 or 60 minutes until we make up for whatever deficit there was.
Okay. And can we get a copy of that in?
Sure,
whenever
you can.
email
We can
us?
run a report that you want to see what our compensatory services look like.
Well, I want to know how many kids are getting all of the services that they're supposed to be getting.
Oh, okay.
And how many kids are not receiving all
Okay,
of the services.
I got
they're
you.
supposed to.
So you want to see which kids we know are not receiving full spectrum of
Correct.
services. Okay, as
Yes, ma'am.
prescribed through their IEP. Okay,
ma'am.
sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Baddick, I have one question real quick. I know you stated that we were around 16% for our average, and the national average was around 14. Where do we stand as far as state average? Do we have any idea?
That's actually a really good question, and I don't know that because all of the information I looked up was state comparisons. I will look at that. I would say, and this is just to give you guys some understanding, 16 may seem high. I was a principal in a district that we were at 31, and then in another district we were at 22. So 16 isn't all that bad because, in the state of South Carolina, you have some districts with proportionately low numbers of kids with special education, and then you have districts with high numbers. So I will get that for you happily. I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but we're not in a bad position. If we get MTSS working the way that it should work, I expect that those numbers come down because a lot of students can be serviced and provided adequately through tiers 2 and 3 through MTSS.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Okay, she's coming back on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I just want to thank Dr. Baddick and Dr. Durden for the overview, and I just want to thank them for their work. Thank you so much. I'm going to finish my report. If you would Mr. Humphreys, go back to my presentation, and I think we start with the STEM classroom at Colleton County Middle School.
It's up, Ms. Williams.
Okay, all right, thank you. So I just wanted to announce, and I know that you all know that we have a partnership with the Gear Up program through Voorhees College, and we are very, very happy to announce that Gear Up will be funding a STEM classroom for us at Colleton County Middle School. As you know, Gear Up provides lots of activities and services for our students starting in middle school through high school. And one of the things that they wanted to do was to provide more hands-on and project-based learning activities and opportunities and STEM integration for our students. So they are going to fully fund a STEM classroom for us. The only expense that we would have is we would have to pay for the professional development for the teachers or staff who will be in the STEM room doing those activities with students. So we're very happy to announce that. And also, when those 8th grade students go to the high school next year, they are going to implement or fully fund a STEM classroom at the high school as well. The timeline for completing the project at the middle school is January, the beginning to mid-January. So we're very excited about that. The company that we're utilizing is called STEMU, and they're working very closely with the administration there at the middle school to get the project started. So I just wanted to let you know about that.
Ms. Williams, may I ask you a question about that program? Will that be offered to students in grades 6 through 8?
It will be, yes. Students grades 6 to 8 will have the opportunity to utilize the STEM lab. Now, I am in conversation with Mr. Peoples and also Ms. Bozeman as to how that schedule will look and how we're going to rotate kids through that lab. But we will definitely try our best to make sure that all students have that opportunity.
Understood. I know so much at the middle school is based on the location of the classroom, and I wonder if you could talk to us about where this STEM classroom might be in the middle school, especially knowing our robotics renovations are currently underway, which is, I think, in our capital projects or ESSER funding. Do you have plans for that as of yet?
Yes, most definitely. Yes, so we were, as we were thinking about where the best placement for this room would be, we started downstairs. There's a double room downstairs, and I don't know the room number. Sorry, I don't have that information, but we thought about that particular room. And then because of the specs and because of the equipment that has to go into it with the all of the lab equipment and the screens and different things like that, we decided to put the lab upstairs. So the STEM lab will be upstairs. I don't have the room number, but I can get it for you. I can go back through my email to see exactly which room it is. But the STEM lab will be located upstairs at the middle school.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. And the specifics are less necessary. I appreciate knowing the thought, just because those are two similar programs, and the more access that our students have to those, and not being limited based on location, the better. So thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Okay, if you would go to the next slide. The next slide is about our elementary alternative program, and I know you've heard me talk about this before. I just wanted to let you know that we've developed a design team to move forward with the design of our elementary alternative program. And that design team consists of representatives from all departments, because we want to make sure that curriculum instruction is represented. We want to make sure transportation, food service, Office of Exceptional Learning, all of our departments are working collaboratively so that we can make sure when we start this program that we are following all state or federal guidelines. The team visited Liberty Hill Alternative Program in North Charleston, and they recently visited a program called Reset that's located in Richland County. As I said, we want to make sure that we're following state and federal guidelines and as we're designing this program. And the timeline for this initiative is to begin in January of 2024. Okay. All right, the next slide. This slide is basically concerning our Colleton County School Board of Trustees Fall Retreat. I just want to highlight the awesome board retreat that we had on September 30th at the Walterboro Wildlife Center. We had some very courageous conversations along with opportunities for team and relationship building. And as we move forward, I ask that we continue to seek ways to unite our efforts as we make good decisions for our district. So I just wanted to thank all of our school board trustees for an awesome, awesome retreat. The next slide talks about the National Summer Learning Association Summit. And as you are aware, Mrs. Hedden, myself, and Dr. Reed are currently attending the National Summer Learning Summit in Washington, D.C. This conference is a good connecting conference. It connects you with organizations from all over the nation, and it just provides a space to hear and learn about initiatives and activities that other districts and states are doing to provide quality summer learning for our students. I just wanted to reiterate that I will be representing the district on a national stage on tomorrow here at the conference. The topic of that discussion is called Education 2024 and Beyond, What's Critical for Summer Learning. So I'm very excited about representing our district in that panel discussion on tomorrow. And the very last slide in my report is called Take Back Our Community Initiative. And at our last meeting, I asked for your support in implementing a mentor/outreach program for our district. I took that back to our superintendent's council, and we had some good, healthy discussion about how we can design this and how we can work together with organizations and different businesses in our community. So I have a design team working on that as well. And we are in the process of planning a community event for the month of November. We don't have a date yet, but I will share that date with you very soon. And you will have more details as to what that community initiative will look like. Lastly, this is not in my report because this was just released today, but I wanted to let you know that the South Carolina State Department released the school report card information at 10 o'clock this morning. It was released by State Superintendent Ellen Weaver. And I just wanted to remind you that at next week's board meeting, Mrs. McDonald will give a full, extensive presentation on school report card designations and data and all of that at our next meeting. So just wanted to let you know about that release that occurred today. And that concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer any additional questions you may have.
Is there any question for Ms. Williams?
Ms. Williams, I just wanted to commend the district on the communication of the fall break, letting parents know of something new and different. Can you hear me? I'm echoing a little bit.
Yes, I can hear you.
But we're on a different schedule. Early release yesterday, and so the district did a great job of robocalls and I think dojo messages to get that word out. Want to make sure that our district too continues to monitor this week and the effort to give everyone a break. I think it's a good idea, but I'd like to better understand the implications of this break, how beneficial it is, things like our zero tolerance, having to re-engage students after a week being gone, how teachers feel about this break, starting routine again, second 9 weeks, how that transition occurs. I know it's something that we're all mindful of, but I want to have it reported back to us at some point in the next 6 weeks, 8 weeks or so before we begin looking at next year's calendar to fully understand how this week has either helped or been a challenge to our district.
Most definitely, Ms. Whitkin, and you brought up a very good point, because I was thinking about that and thinking about, surveying our teachers, and not only our teachers and staff, but also our parents as well, just to get some feedback as we begin, developing our school calendars for next year.
Thank you. 2 other points. Was day 45 yesterday?
Yes, day 45 was October 9th.
So if that were the case, is that the day that we are, that our count, our numbers for the school year, is that what we are based on?
Well, I know that yes, to answer your question, yes.
Okay.
That day is utilized for funding purposes. That day is utilized for testing purposes, because I know students have to be present at school on the 45th day and the first day of testing for their scores to count. So it's utilized for different things. Like you said, yes, for funding, enrollment, testing, all of those things are used at the 45th day.
If we could get next week what our 45-day count was yesterday, and a little concerned that was our early dismissal day.
Okay.
How many students decided to not come back knowing that they would not be present the rest of the week?
Okay.
And also,
most definitely, I can do that.
I've already asked for this a little bit, but another area that is concerning, similar to that of spring break, is how do teams in our region for athletics schedule? And for instance, I know the communication to all parents went through that there was no after-school activities except for scheduled athletic events. And just sharing concern about the idea that our student athletes, on days that they are expected to perform and compete, are under our supervision for the duration of the day. So much so that a parent is unable to take a student to an athletic event because they're under the constant supervision of our staff. Just interested in knowing a little bit about, I know we've continued to have our athletes compete this week. And I'll be honest, I'm a little concerned. Are they arriving the same way to compete as they would if they had been in school that whole day? Just kind of tracking that as we move forward and knowing, and again, the effects of this schedule.
Okay, most definitely. I can get that information and have it for you at Tuesday's board meeting.
Thank you.
Is there any other question for Ms. Williams?
Ms. Williams, in our update, I was glad you highlighted 3 schools with the iReady. Will that come up in another report, or did you want to mention that?
Well, I can. We have iReady celebrations every month where we celebrate our schools that have the most students who have time on task and lessons passed, because it's very important that our students not only are on the iReady lessons, but they're passing their lessons as well. So the 3 schools that we recognize, and it was in our District Digest newsletter, the 3 schools were Bells Elementary, Northside Elementary, and Cottageville Elementary. First place went to Northside, second place went to Bells, and third place went to Cottageville. So Cottageville was second, I'm sorry. So first place, and I'm sorry, Cottageville, if you're listening, first place was Northside, second place was Cottageville, and third place was Bells Elementary. So we want to say hats off to the teachers and staff at those 3 schools for your hard work and dedication. And I just want to let you know that, we have a lot going on with iReady, and we will talk about some of that in our presentation next week, where we're talking about our school report card and, what are some of the initiatives that we're doing to make sure that our students are growing academically as they should. And it surrounds a lot of work in iReady. So those are the schools we want to recognize.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Okay, we're going to move right along. Human Resources, Mr. Murdock.
This time I ask Ms. Hamilton to come forth.
Good evening. In my report, I just included the number of vacancies we have to date, and just telling you how we are filling those vacancies. Also, we continue with our hiring campaign, and I gave you all of our upcoming dates. If you have any questions?
I have a question. The consultant, that's someone we just hired?
It's my understanding that's a board recommendation for the HR department.
Well, did we vote on that? I don't remember voting on it.
There was no vote, there was a discussion.
That was just a discussion.
Any other questions?
How was DC?
I didn't go to DC.
I'm sorry, you went you had a conference recently? Did you go to?
Greenville.
Oh, great. How was
Yeah,
Greenville?
personnel conference. It was very, very good. We learned a lot.
Thank you, Ms. Hampton. We will now have Finance, Ms. Roble.
Ms. Barrett, we invite you to come and give us our report for October that reflects what happened in September, right?
Good evening to the board. Good evening to everyone in the building. I just want to go over our monthly report, financial report for the month. For our revenue for the month, our local revenue, we had a decrease of $45,137.82. For our EIA state funding, we had an increase of $113,218.25. And just to reiterate about, we talk about the 45-day, the funding that we get now is based on our 135-day of last year.
Okay.
Now, when the 45-day come again, they will readjust our funding based on that day again. So we may decrease or increase. We don't know yet. So it's always, and then we'll have that funding for the 45-day until we get our 135th day funding back in April. So we don't know that yet. So funding does have a lot to do with students coming to school and having our population of students. So we do depend on the funding for that. Mm-hmm.
So if I may ask a question about day 45, if we can manipulate a school calendar and we can start on different days, could we not try to schedule day 45 on a day that we know most of our students,
Right, but we know that most of the students will be here.
Right, to try to intentionally schedule it when it's not on a Friday, for
Right.
instance, or that sort of thing. Is that, I don't know who's our calendar guru or but we can manipulate that, right?
But we should be able to,
Okay.
because that really would help us with our funding.
Yes, yes, okay. Well, just for note, I think that should be, try to orchestrate that a little better.
Okay. For our federal funding, we normally, with federal funding work on a different fiscal year than we do. Federal funding starts October 1st to September 30th. So normally we don't get any fundings for our federal funds until maybe after October. Sometime we have not got the fundings to as late as January and February to December. The state with the Fed, they take their time sometime to give us our monies. And why we don't get the fundings yet, we still have to pay these bills that are through federal fundings. And once the federal funds come in, we are able to go ahead and bill and get reimbursement for everything we have already spent out based on that. So that's why sometimes you may not see a budget for some because they don't have a budget yet. We have this system called GAP, and we have to wait until the budget is put in the GAP. And right now, I think we only have like maybe 2 or 3 that we just got the money back from 207, which is the CTE money, and she's setting up her budget, but we have to wait until a lot of the federal funds come before we really can bill and recoup some of that expenses, but we still have to incur a lot of expenses like IDEA. We haven't received their funding sources yet, so we're still waiting on those. And food service, unfortunately, well, like to say, in the federal fund, of course, we had a decrease of $13,605.04 because we haven't been able to bill yet. Food service, we got a letter stating that they had a system error at the State Department level, and they weren't able to give us any funds. So we are still waiting. Hopefully, they can go ahead and get this. Oh, good. Okay. Okay, good. Hopefully they come in. So that was a State Department error, but that's why there was a decrease there of $9,727.85. But on the total, we did have an increase of all our revenue of $44,747.54. When our expenditure, the general fund expenditure, it actually went down $130,354.80. Our special revenue went down to $493,572.93. But our federal expenditures went up because we're trying to get rid of all our ESSA money, so we're spending more of it at a time. So that increased by $989,614.49. And food service had a decrease in their expenditures of $11,520.12. But we had a total increase based on our federal funds of $354,169.64 increase. Any questions? And also you have the travel report. I did a little different this time. I separated based on the general fund travel report. And the general fund travel report would be the one that said the 100 account general fund up there. And if you look at the travel report for the general fund, and this is for 2 months of travel, we only spent $27,024.04. But we have a budget of $166,031.01. So we still have like 83% left of the budget. And everyone's been doing really good. There's nothing over budgeted in the general fund account. And the other one is called the special revenue travel. And these are the special funds, like our title funds, that we haven't got any money back from feds yet to set up their budget. So you may see some negative there. But once we get their funding source for the new year, we remove those expenditures out and put it into the new set-up funds, and then that will get their budget out of the negative. But it's only a few of those, and that's the one you're going to see that has Fund 200 on up to Funds 956. And that's, so far for the 2 months with that, we have spent $80,962.27 for our special revenue fund. So as you see, we're spinning up the special revenue fund for travel and not really using a lot of the general fund right now. Any questions about that?
Thank you for the separation. That's, I like them. It's helpful.
Okay.
Is there any question from Ms. Barrett?
We received a budget report by location, which is mostly, looks like district office.
Okay.
I'm not sure what that is.
Okay, you have a report that's,
It has Dr. Reed's name on the very bottom.
oh, yes,
So
I'm
is
gonna go over that.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, this is Dr. Reed report now I'm going to do, because she's in Washington DC with the conference also. And she submitted her report for her ESSA funds report. And basically, with her update, she wanted to say what the current balance was for the ESSA funds, and they were $10,749,556.51. And she also has Amendment 10 that she's already put with the state, and this amendment is still pending. And out of all the minutes that are there, she's looking for X-ray weapon detection system of the $270,000. We already paid for the system in another funding source, because I know we were really wanting to go ahead and get those systems right away. So once we get approval from the ESSA, we remove those expenses in the ESSA and claim that fund once we get the approval. We have an elementary alternative. She has for $421,937.71. The HVAC at Black Street for $350,000. We're going to increase for the barber, the nail, the robotics, transportation, business education, $1.2 million. And you can have the continued positions that the district social worker, MTSS, CAS coordinator of $162,000. We got a reserve for building and maintenance projects of $547,239.55. And then she's going to have the full mind eye tutor of $300,000 and international recruitment of $88,000 and Admentum of $202,000. And that's what's we're looking for approval from the state for ESSER, for the ESSER projects that we want to have. Is there any question on that?
Well explained. Any questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett.
Curriculum and instruction, Mr. Irwin.
Thought I saw Ms. Hedden on our virtual. Good evening, Ms. Hedden. Are you doing our curriculum and instruction report? Ms.
Good
Hedden?
evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. As you can see from our slides, curriculum and instruction has been busy this last month. Either we have been planning or facilitating professional development sessions. Also, we've been conducting observations in the schools and having coaching conversations with the staff and creating rigorous assessments. Some of the PD sessions that we have had for over the last month are on our next slide, which have been in the areas of biology, math, iReady, the iReady Principals Academy you heard Ms. Williams speak of earlier, letters, social emotional learning curriculum, some of our technology offerings such as the Google applications, Securely Refresher, and of course, Arts Now. On our next slide, I have some information from the Office of Assessment and Accountability. Ms. McDonald has participated in iReady Principals Academy at each location and then conducted those same sessions for Bells Elementary as well as Forest Hills Elementary. She's been busy analyzing test scores from the spring state assessments and providing a press release, as Ms. Williams said, that is going out. Also, she's collaborating with school test coordinators to ensure preparedness for our October state assessments, which are COGAT, PSAT, and WIN. From Power School, Ms. Varn has been busy with conducting monthly meetings with her Power School clerks, troubleshooting any Power School user issues that may come up from the parents or from teachers. She's reviewed the dropout report and offered suggestions, provided requested reports to the department leads. She attended the incident management professional development and supported school level power school clerks with task completion. Also, another PD that she attended was the Ed-Fi. And at this time, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Anybody got any questions for Ms. Hedden?
Just a note to say that I know that SE Ready scores for individual students have been, some schools are mailing those. I don't know, is that occurring at every school level?
Some are mailing and some are giving them out at the parent conferences when report cards were given out.
Just always want to share that so that parents know that information should be coming to you, so look out for it. Thank you.
Were there any other questions?
There is none. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hedden.
We will have operation, Mr. Stavender.
At this time, we would like to hear from Ms. Fitch on the operations.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I wanted to share that I had told Mr. Bradley that at some point when he feels up to it, that y'all would like to hear from him at the board meeting. So he said he will make sure he does that. He sent me his report this week, though. And he wanted me to point out that National School Bus Safety Week will take place the week of the 16th through the 20th. And all students will be participating and completing the bus evacuation drills on the 18th and the 19th. And you have the rest of our report. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them, or have Mr. Hamilton come up and answer some.
Any questions?
I had a question
Yes,
that
ma'am.
I wanted to go back. You mentioned earlier in the summer the fire system at TCTC, and I just wondered the status of that, because I know that was a holdup in moving forward at the beginning of the summer. So I just wondered where we are with that.
Yeah, well, we're working on that. That was part of the report on the Barbara and Hale.
Mr. Hamilton, can I?
Yes, good evening. Yeah, that's part of the barber and nail tech area is actually within that project, and we have been working on that almost daily with Johnson with their pricing, and I talked to the gentleman yesterday, and he's real close. He had some last minute questions, and so hopefully we have that cost this week. But that design and the installation is included in the Neotech project.
Thank you.
I was under impression like we were getting like approval from the fire. It was Miss Ellen, you gave that report,
Yes,
so.
So we had to develop a fire-safe plan.
Right.
And that was done and completed and sent to OSF, and they have approved that, and we have the permit. They're only looking at revising the permit to where we scaled down the project to get it within cost. So now that's all OSF is looking at this point. But that should be taken care of.
Yeah.
Pretty, I guess we're waiting on that final right now.
Yeah, the redesign, yeah. They are
Okay.
working on the pricing while LS3P finished the redesign. But it's not going to affect the fire alarm system or the project itself. It's just a reduction in scope to get it in budget.
Catch me up, I know there are bullets here, but catch me up where we are with bringing the architects back in. I just wasn't sure where we were in the process with that. I thought, we were past that.
Bringing the architects back in on the project.
LS3P.
We work, they're back engaged. In fact, on a lot of the projects, not the nail tech, the robotics, the canopies at Hendersonville and Cottesville, all of those projects. And I said that we're developing scope on the middle school HVAC renovation, as well as the Blackstreet area, and we're engaged with them now, just developing the scope and getting contracts in. In fact, I got the contracts for the canopies yesterday, the day before, and we're in the process of executing those.
Any other questions?
And the contractor that's listed here, we've already approved, or are we gonna have anybody local that's available to give us services for any of these projects?
Well, I've been trying to find, but we're using a job order contract, which is a list of pre-approved contractors. And that's where the Johnson Luck came from. That process was open to everyone, but some people chose not to participate in it.
On the bus parking lot, who's developing that scope and design?
LS3P with the help of a civil engineer, used to be Lindbergh. They got acquired by someone else, but they're doing the civil part of it with LS3P. The contract will be with LS3P.
And I'm glad to see the roofing projects are listed here at the high school. You mentioned the warranty at the last meeting?
Yeah, I'm meeting with the person who did that. He's since retired. And he's coming to the office Thursday to talk more about that, and we're going to visit the roof. The company that actually did that is no longer in business, so it's a little tricky. But he's committed to doing whatever he can to make that happen.
And that's who we'd be working with?
American Coating, something it's out of Savannah, was out of Savannah, but they are no longer in business.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Fitch, when
Yes,
I
ma'am.
went to the RISD Business conference and that you were talking, there is some information that I have. We both, I think when they were giving out the information, we looked at each other and said, oh, but I'm going to share those information
Thank
with you, and hopefully it'll be useful.
Okay, thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
Sure.
One question real quick.
Yes, sir.
I noticed on our hiring process for our different vacancies in maintenance, we've have several that are pending. Are we still waiting on those to accept those positions, or have we hired any more since this was?
Yes, we are. I have to meet with Ms. Williams and Mr. Hamilton on two of those. And the offer is pending, and so we're waiting to see if they are going to accept those positions. And there were no applicants for plumber, so we will be contracting that out as we need anything that we can't do within maintenance. And there are some custodian positions that recommendations have been completed on those, and those will be filled.
Okay. As far as the maintenance assistant, it says hiring process in progress. Did we not have anybody that was qualified for that?
Yes, we actually have been in talks with one gentleman for one maintenance assistant position, but there are actually several maintenance assistant positions open.
Okay.
So we're still looking at applicants for those.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. According to my agenda, I can ask for a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, make a motion that we adjourn the committee of the whole meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. If there is no question, all in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Good night, everyone.
Good night.